The Chicago Bears didn't look like a team that's ready for NFL playoff football in their loss to the Detroit Lions, even though they backed their way into securing the number 2 seed.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lauren Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. On the show today, we're going to go back through everything we saw in a disappointing Week 18 loss to the Detroit Lions. We start with the Bears offense that was scoreless through the first 3 quarters, why they started so slow, what was going wrong, and what level of concern we have about that side of the ball heading into the playoffs. Then we turn our attention to a Bears defense that felt like a vulnerable group all game long, a frustrating group, but only gave up 19 points and 16 for the majority of the game. Did a decent enough job when it was all said and done, but it certainly didn't feel that way as the game was going on. And we'll wrap up looking and trying to find some positives from this game. Some stuff went well, including a couple of nice touchdown drives in the fourth quarter. So we'll look at what kind of positives they can try and build on with Green Bay coming to town next Saturday night. But I think the story of this game to me was more about the slow start for the Bears offense and their inability to score than it was purely about the defense making life seemingly way too easy for Jared Goff for far too much of this game. Because as bad as it felt like the defense played, it was the offense that really did worse. You can't go 3 quarters without scoring in the NFL and expect to win games. You can't expect to win games by only scoring 16 points in those entire games. That's just not a winning offensive performance for most teams in most situations. And it was another slow start that has you concerned about how well this team's going to be able to jumpstart an offense in the playoffs next weekend, especially coming off of a game last week against the San Francisco 49ers, where the Bears offense put up 31 points on its own and 38 with the help of a pick 6 in that game, where you felt like things were clicking a little bit on that side of the ball. And this Week 18 loss to the Lions felt a little bit more like a regression to some of the same types of offensive just struggles that we saw earlier in the season. The Bears weren't running the ball poorly, but it wasn't a great running game either. They just weren't running the ball all that much. 17 handoffs in this game, in part because they only have 3 drives in the first half, 1 in the first quarter because the defense isn't getting off the field, and also the offense isn't sustaining very long drives here. And then all of a sudden, you find yourself behind on the scoreboard. It's 13-0 at halftime, and now it's a little harder to run the ball when you're down multiple scores. So you got to pass the ball to get back in the game. But overall, when they did hand it off, the running game wasn't terrible. It just wasn't quite as dominant as you wanted it to be. But it just felt like, especially early on, a little bit of everything was going wrong, right? It's hard to pin it on one particular person or group. Yes, Caleb Williams missed a few throws early on, and that helped derail some things on offense. True, he deserves part of the blame there. Ben Johnson struggling to get things rolling on offense where they weren't getting explosive runs. It was kind of 3 and 4 yards here and there, which was fine, but not as much as you needed it to be to really kind of lean on that side of the game. You saw the Lions blitzing you a little bit and getting Caleb Williams uncomfortable and out of the pocket and disrupting the rhythm of the offense that way. The offensive line in general struggling a little bit at times in this game. Caleb Williams gets sacked on the first drive or the second drive of the game, one of those early drives when Darnell Wright got beat off the right side by Aiden Hutchinson. And then there were a couple drop passes along the way there. Some easier drops, some tougher drops where there's contact on the receiver trying to go the contested catch. But still, it wasn't like, oh, every drive Caleb's just missing and that's why they're punting, right? Or every drive their runs are getting 0 yards and that's why they're punting. Or every drive they're dropping passes. It was always nothing would quite go right at the same time. It wasn't stacking the same thing going wrong over and over. But once they'd stop dropping the passes, well, then there'd be a sack on the quarterback. Or once the offensive line held up better, then Caleb misses a guy. And just little things like that where there was always one thing going wrong, and that felt like some of the early season issues that the Bears had offensively. But in the second half, they start getting Luther Burden a little bit more involved. I remember a quick screen pass kind of got him going. It felt like the Bears started picking up pressure a little bit better and just sort of simplifying the offense a little bit and going a little bit quicker, short, over the middle of the field. A lot of Colston Loveland, a lot of Cole Kmet, and a lot of Luther Burden work in the middle. You look at like Caleb Williams' passing chart from the game where his targets went. Like a lot of it concentrated a little bit to the right and then like between the hash marks and the numbers. Like there's a couple outside throws he made when he's flushed out of the pocket and throws to the sideline, but for the most part, throwing towards the middle of the field and a little bit on the, not short, but like shorter end, medium, intermediate type areas between anywhere from 5 to 15 yards downfield. It's kind of where he was just kind of hitting the quick hitters there. Slant routes, curl routes, crossing routes, quick in routes, just trying to get into rhythm. And I think that's what started to happen a little bit more in the second half until you get, down there on that drive and he takes a deep shot to DJ Moore and it's picked off in the end zone. And on that throw in particular, I think more than one thing can be true at the same time. Not a great throw from Caleb Williams. Did look like Durham Smythe was pretty wide open underneath, but I don't necessarily hate the decision to take the shot downfield, but didn't necessarily put it in the best spot. Tom Brady showed a nice replay and talked about it in the game where there's trying to get between a corner and a safety. I thought maybe put a little bit too far vertical and could have gone a little bit more horizontal, so the safety wouldn't have had such a good angle to it. But then also, DJ Moore has to fight for that football. His effort and intensity on that play was horrible. You cannot have that from your highest paid wide receiver, from your quote unquote number one wide receiver, from 1,000-yard wide receiver. You have to care more. You have to go after that ball. He gave up on that ball in the air and let it get intercepted. Now, that doesn't mean it was a great throw from Caleb, right? Caleb deserves some blame there too, but so does DJ Moore. Like DJ Moore has to at least fight for that ball, but he just lets the safety push him out of the way and make the interception. Like, I don't need DJ Moore to jump up and swat it away like a defensive back. I just need him to look like he cared, look like he wanted to catch the ball, look like he was giving 100% effort all the way through and trying to help his quarterback out instead of kind of leaving his quarterback out to dry when, again, the quarterback has to put it in harm's way, but DJ Moore's got to do better there too. But then Caleb bounces back, as he always does. Fourth quarter, right? That touchdown pass to Ja'Day Walker on the post route in the end zone is a really nice read and really nice throw. 25 yards to the end zone. Read the coverage perfectly, cover for blitz. Safety comes down to pick up the number 2 receiver to the inside. Post route bends behind it. But like for him to know the route, read the coverage, stay in the pocket, offensive line and the running back picks up the blitz, which is something they hadn't done very well earlier in the game and in previous games, to give him time to step in and fire that throw and let it all develop. Like, that's what this offense is supposed to look like. And that was a much bigger part of Caleb being in rhythm, right? The protection helped him be in rhythm. The blitz pickup helped him be in rhythm. The receivers running routes where they need to be helped him be in rhythm. Catching the ball when he throws a catchable touchdown pass to them, right? All those things, I think, helped really jumpstart this Bears offense. And then they can go back to the running game a little bit here and there and get some chunks from Swift to help balance things out. But then Caleb gets firing, like quick to Loveland, quick to Kmet, quick to Loveland, gets him down the end zone, another touchdown to Loveland, another 2-point conversion to Cole Kmet. And all of a sudden, you had faith again late in this game that the cardiac Bears came back and tied it. And you felt like, oh man, if you could just give Caleb the ball one more time, well, they do. And they end up going backwards a little bit there and punting, but still, you felt like you were in this game. You just needed your defense to make one more stop, and then they couldn't make the one more stop. And that's where that side of the ball reminds us of the disappointment they provided. At least they held the Lions to only 19. I think they had better results, but just as bad of a process to get to those bad results. So we'll take a look at where the defense felt way too easy for the Lions and yet still somehow held them to under 20 points. Next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by DripDrop. Kicking off the year feeling good is the goal, right? And honestly, hydration is one of the easiest wins you can start with, because I know when I stay on top of it, my energy, focus, and mood all level up. But let's be real. Plain water doesn't always cut it. After your third or fourth glass, you're just kind of bored and you want something flavorful, and that's when you can get into the calories and all sorts of sugar drinks, especially when you're grinding through some of those long days, especially hitting the gym or just trying to stay consistent with your health goals. But that's where DripDrop comes in. Doctor-developed, proven fast hydration that helps your body and mind work better. Think clearer focus, better energy, elevated mood, and even that fresh skin glow. DripDrop's science-backed formula is trusted by firefighters, medical professionals, and over 90% of top college and pro teams because it rehydrates you faster and more effective than water alone. Right now, DripDrop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to DripDrop.com and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That's DripDrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 20% off. Stock up now at DripDrop.com and use that promo code LOCKEDONNFL. The Locked On Bears podcast is also brought to you by PrizePicks. Whether you're starting a new routine or jumping into player projections for the first time, trying something new can feel like a challenge. But with PrizePicks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure football matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the sports time never slows down, and PrizePicks lets you stay in control. PrizePicks is the daily fantasy app that makes watching sports even more exciting by letting you build lineups based on player stat projections. No drafts, no waiting, just pick more or less on a player's stats and play your way. So you could pick more or less on Caleb Williams' passing yards, DeAndre Swift's rushing yards, Colston Loveland's receiving yards. You can cross over into basketball, hockey, soccer, tennis, boxing, you name it. They've got it all on PrizePicks, making it quick and simple to play. You can set your lineup in literally 60 seconds. So download the PrizePicks app today and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. This Bears defensive performance felt abysmal a lot during this game. And it was like, oh my gosh, the Bears can't stop these guys at all. And the Lions are having the easiest time marching up and down the field. And yet when it's all said and done, Detroit has 19 points on the board. And that's by no means a dominant, stellar defensive performance, but like 19 points allowed should be a good enough to win defensive performance. Like, I think that's a bare minimum, like, benchmark there. Like, 19 points allowed, you should expect that your offense can score more than 19 points. You know, like, that wouldn't, 19 points per game wouldn't be a number one defense in football, but it would be a top 10 defense in football if you're allowing 19 points per game. Like, that's not a bad day at the office, big picture final results wise. It felt like a really bad day at the office, though, for this Bears defense, because Jared Goff was able to sit in the pocket and slice and dice them up and down the field. Receivers were open way too easily. Big chunk plays. I mean, you saw, I think the Lions had 4 different receivers with catches for over 15 yards in this game. You know, Goff has over 300 yards passing, only ends up with one passing touchdown, and it was the only touchdown scored by the Detroit Lions in this game. And that's where the defensive performance finds its saving grace, right? Way too easy for the Bears, or for the Bears defense, making it way too easy for the Lions to move the ball up and down the field. When they got in the red zone, though, the Lions offense has a huge weakness there. The Bears defense also stood strong there, and the Lions settled for, 5 different field goal attempts in this game, making 4 field goals all in all. And that's where you end up with a performance that feels worse than the scoreboard would suggest, because for some reason, Dennis Allen was content running a bunch of man coverage in this game. And the Lions were content saying, great, we know how to get open versus man coverage. We'll just run our speed guys across the middle of the field. We'll run rub routes, and we'll get these guys open because we know there's not going to be anybody in zone to pass these along, that you're going to try and turn and run with Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Khalif Raymond over and over again. Sign us up. We'll take that all day, every day. And I'm really curious to go back through the All-22 film and try and get a sense of, when and how often did the Bears actually try zone coverage? But even Jaquan Brisker said after the game, we were playing man coverage all the time, and they out-schemed us. Simple as that. And I'm left scratching my head as to why. Why was that the decision from Dennis Allen? This felt like a game where, yes, personnel remains a problem for the Bears. Secondary is not good enough. Pass rush is certainly not good enough. They need to make some upgrades there. But this game felt like the defensive coaching and play calling started failing the players just as much as the players had been failing the coaches for much of the season, right? Like we knew the pass rush isn't that good. We knew, Deshaun Wright's kind of boom or bust. We know Jalen Johnson's a little banged up. We know CJ Gardner-Johnson has his ups and downs, right? Like there are known weaknesses about this Bears defense that we have been very patient with Dennis Allen about, saying, well, what's he supposed to do? He's got bad players. And yet in this game, there was a lot more Dennis Allen and company could have done. And it's felt that way for a few weeks now, where they just don't mix things up enough coverage-wise so that over and over and over again, the Lions can just throw against man coverage. And Jalen Johnson looked absolutely cooked. Like he looked like an old man out there trying to run and cover these guys. I think he is far from 100% healthy. But if that is the case, why is he playing close to 100% of the snaps? Tyreek Stevenson did not play a single defensive snap in this game, a healthy scratch against the Lions. And I'm not saying that Tyreek Stevenson would have been, I don't even know that Tyreek Stevenson would have been a better player, but he would have been a different player, and he wouldn't have, it would have been trying something different. Because it felt like in this game, Dennis Allen was doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results and not getting different results. Like you had Jalen Johnson getting cooked. You had CJ Gardner-Johnson pretty much toast in the slot before he got hurt. Deshaun Wright overrunning guys up and down the field, very sloppy. Like Brisker and Byard were doing fine on the back end. Brisker had a couple pass breakups. Byard had that interception we'll talk about in a second. But like your linebackers never stood a chance on Jahmyr Gibbs in man-to-man coverage. Like, of course, TJ Edwards is going to get smoked on a Texas route for a touchdown. Why are you asking TJ Edwards to cover Jahmyr Gibbs one-on-one out of the backfield in man coverage consistently? And even David Montgomery outruns Tremaine Edmonds up the right sideline. If Edmonds can't be fast enough to chase down David Montgomery, like, what is he actually giving you that's positive on defense? Like, his whole thing is speed and mobility, right? Size, speed, freak athlete. And you get outrun by David Montgomery. Like, not that Montgomery is, like, slow, but, like, he's not a speed running back either. Like, it was a weird game where, like, if anything, like, the pass rush felt like the pleasant surprise on defense because, like, they were getting a little bit of pressure every once in a while on Jared Goff. And I think you can chalk up some of that to beating up on a backup right tackle who's not a starting caliber NFL offensive lineman. And then the Lions left guard is a rookie who was injured coming into the game, left after like the first or second play, and then came back. So he was either gone or on the field at less than 100%. Like there were some issues on the Lions offensive line that it's good that the Bears pass rush took advantage of, and we'd be really concerned if they couldn't have taken advantage of that. But it wasn't like they were doing this against a great offensive line or a healthy offensive line for Detroit. But still, it felt like the few times the Bears actually stopped the Lions was when the pass rush would do something, right? Montez Sweat comes around the edge for a sack and I think splits it with Grady Jarrett. Gervon Dexter loops around on a stunt and comes in for a sack. Austin Booker had a batted pass in this game. TJ Edwards had a batted pass in the game. Like it was like guys rushing the quarterback made a couple of plays here and there that were the rare stops that the Bears defense actually made, because it seemed like most of the time the Lions derailed themselves on some of these drives where they had a handful of drop passes in key down and distances. Jared Goff missed a few receivers here and there, had to dirt a couple of them at the feet of running backs, like little stuff where he just would step up and miss it. Lions had a few penalties on themselves, false starts and intentional groundings and stuff that got them in some long down and distance situations that they couldn't overcome. And then a couple of pressures and stuff on Goff threw things off there. But like for the most part, the Lions did more beating themselves offensively than it was the Bears defense stopping them. I mean, even the interception, right? Like a bunch of credit to Jaquan Brisker for batting that pass up, Kevin Byard for intercepting that pass. Huge stop that obviously changes the game for the Bears, right? Keeps them in that game as opposed to more points for Detroit, and you're probably down and out at that point. But like Goff steps up. I think he's under pressure. There might have been a blitz. I don't remember. Fires a ball into like double coverage that's read well by the defense, but also like not a smart play by Goff at all in that situation. And the Lions probably should have just run the ball and tried to take more time off the clock. But it felt like that play definitely was playmaking by the Bears as well. But like it's little self-inflicted wounds by the Lions. They're trying to do too much as opposed to just like letting the man coverage and the defense come to you, because the Bears are making it super, super easy. So it just kind of felt like this defensive struggle felt a little bit more on Dennis Allen's shoulders than it has been in other defensive struggles where it feels like, well, what can he do? He's got no good players. He's trying everything and nothing's working. And this game felt like he's trying one thing and it's not working, and he's not trying much else. So why do you keep trying the thing that's not working? Still waiting to get a good answer from that and hoping the All-22 film can maybe provide a little bit more, but I'm not so certain there. Now, all things considered, not how you want to finish the season, ugly, messy game that doesn't leave you with a ton of confidence. But there were a few things that went right. This was not all bad, and as the Bears turn their attention forward to the wild card round and a home game against the Packers, they're going to focus on the positives and building off of those. So we're going to do the same thing and find a few things that went well in this loss to the Lions next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is sponsored by Betterhelp. The new year doesn't require a new you, but maybe just a less burdened you. Because we all carry things that weigh us down or hold us back, and therapy can help you identify what those things are by offering an unbiased perspective to better understand your relationships, your motivations, and your emotions. And that's where BetterHelp comes in, making it easy to get matched online with a qualified therapist who can help you work through what's holding you back. I do online therapy, and it's a really important part of my own personal mental health regimen. So if you're looking to just live a happier, more fulfilled life in 2026, BetterHelp is a great place to start, and therapy can be an absolute game changer for you. BetterHelp makes it easy to get matched online with a qualified therapist. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Locked On Bears podcast is also brought to you by Gametime. The NFL playoffs are here, and there's nothing like being at the game. The crowd noise, the energy, and cheering alongside other fans. Watching at your house is great, but being in Soldier Field hits different, especially playoff time. When was the last time you had to be in Soldier Field for a playoff game? 2018, I think, Philadelphia Eagles. Anyway, but we know the frustrating part has always been getting the tickets, right? Waiting in queues, dealing with logins, and watching those prices change once you get up at the checkout. That's why the Gametime app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing NFL playoff tickets and experiences in just a few taps. With Gametime, you can see your view from your seat in the venue, so you know exactly what you're getting with your ticket purchase. And with their all-in pricing, the fees are included up front. So the price you see is exactly what you pay. So take the guesswork out of buying playoff tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem that code Locked On NFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today and get back to being there live. This game was messy and ugly, and you'd love to do it over and see a much different result and go into the playoffs with a little bit more positive momentum. But there are still a few individual things that stand out as positives from this game that you can build on, and you can go into the playoffs saying, all right, here's something, and if you could just clean up the other 80%, maybe you'll be in a good spot. And knowing that, hey, you're facing a Packers team on a 4-game losing streak might make that a little bit more manageable as well. But like when I look back at this game and try and think about players that played well, we mentioned Jaquan Brisker had a couple of pass breakups, Kevin Byard, another interception. Like those two guys were playing a bit better. I know Brisker's had some up and down lately, but it felt like this was a little bit of a better game from him, and Byard still locked in at this point of the season. Also think it's worth mentioning like the pressure they were able to get on Jared Goff. Like 4 different Bears pass rushers hit the quarterback and brought him down. I mean, one of them was a split sack between Sweat and Jarrett, but like that's 3 more sacks than we usually expect in any given week, right? Like getting any kind of pressure on the quarterback has been tough for the Bears to do. And even though it's a bad offensive line with a couple of backups in there, or a mediocre offensive line with a couple of bad backups in there, it's something that you could stack on from last week when they got a little pressure on Purdy when Trent Williams went out. Like it's not nearly good enough, but the pass rush has been at least slightly better than it has been for a lot of the season. And maybe they could carry some of that momentum and confidence into the playoffs. And especially in the playoffs, right? Like one big sack, one big play by a pass rusher can completely flip a game. So maybe they can ride a little bit of that momentum forward. You also, by the time this game is done, Colston Loveland finishes the regular season as the Chicago Bears' leading receiver. this season. The only player on the team over 700 yards on the season. I imagine if Rome Odunze had played and had missed the last 5 games, he probably would have been the leading receiver. But instead, the rookie who wasn't really a part of the game plan the first couple of weeks of the year, all of a sudden has been on an absolute tear, was phenomenal in this game against the Lions, was great against the 49ers the week before. Like, the offense is not hot, but Colston Loveland is on fire, right? Like, he is playing the best football of his young career right now. And going into this Packers game, Green Bay is going to circle him as threat number 1, that they're really worried about carving them up in the middle of the field. You have something great going with Colston Loveland right now. And, Luther Burden was not a big factor in the first half, but got going 3 catches, 35 yards there in the second half. Like, they found a way to manufacture some touches for him on a jet sweep as well. So feels like he too is still trending in this positive direction. It's not like he, was doing great and now just disappeared at the end. He's still there too. And we now have seen back-to-back games where Caleb Williams hits the hard count, gets a defensive player to jump off sides, snaps the ball and gets a free play downfield. Got a touchdown against the 49ers. Not so much this time against the Lions, but that's a real weapon that gave the Bears, I think it gave them a free first down, if I remember correctly. Let me see here. I don't have it in my notes exactly where that was. It was 4th and 4 when they went to the hard count. Here it is. And so that 5-yard penalty gave them a first down. Now, DJ Moore had a false start on the very next play, but that's not the point, right? The fact that hard count has become a real weapon for this offense and multiple weeks, multiple opponents type of thing. If they can get another big free play against the Packers next week, that can be another momentum shifting, swinging type of play in a game like this. You also saw Caleb do a really good job of averting disaster on that play. Was that third quarter? The snap went through it, was a little bit to the left and went through his hands and rolled all the way back to the 2-yard line. And Caleb Williams picks it up and just launches it to the moon. That's a play that other quarterbacks dive on it, and you're left with 2nd and 45 from your own 2-yard line, and you end up, punting the ball or whatever after that. But that was a drive where they drove down and scored. That was the second touchdown drive, so that would have been in the 4th quarter then, that saved that drive and kept the Bears in the game. Literally a game-saving play by Caleb that probably should have been intentional grounding, but still a really special play for him to have the poise to stand there and throw it away and not panic or not scramble around and get tackled or not throw an interception or whatever it might be. That play could have been so much worse in so many ways, and he took a disaster and made it a manageable incomplete pass. That was absolutely huge in this game. The biggest incomplete pass maybe we've seen all season. On the other side, I think it's important to note that the last few weeks, the Bears have gotten a lot better at batting passes at the line of scrimmage. It's been one of the ways this pass rush has come on a little bit. Is Austin Booker had a couple last week and had one in this game. Grady Jarrett had one in this game. TJ Edwards had one in this game on a blitz. I think Montez Sweat might have had one. Andrew Billings may have even got his hands on one. The Bears have done a better job at saying, okay, I'm not getting home on my pass rush. Let's look up and jump and swat these down. That wasn't something they were doing a ton of successfully earlier in the season, but it has become a little bit of a weapon at this stage in the process as well. And then we can just say bigger picture, the Bears had 4 penalties in this game. All things considered, that's not a bad day at the office. They're second or third in the NFL with most penalties in the NFL this season. To have 4 for 25 yards. It was 2 encroachments on Andrew Billings, one of which was a smart play, and then the false start of DJ Moore and the intentional grounding from Caleb Williams. One of the least sloppy penalty type games from the Bears this season. And the last one, I'll say, just kind of tongue in cheek. This might have slipped by on the broadcast, but I heard it. And I don't know how much Twitter heard it, but we got Tom Brady to say piss missile on TV, on national broadcast game in the America's Game of the Week window on Fox. I think technically, I'm not an FCC expert. I think technically you are allowed to say piss missile on TV, which is why I'm saying it on the podcast here and not censoring it or trying to be coy about it. But Tom Brady referred to one of Caleb Williams' passes as a piss missile to Luther Burden, and they moved past it quickly, but I don't think Fox wants him to say piss missile. So that's something where he gets kind of caught up in the excitement of the moment of a Caleb Williams throw. It's a genuine moment from a man who's got a lot of plastic in his face and work done on his body. It was one of the most real moments from someone who's got a lot of not real going on in his body. But nonetheless, just kind of cool moments. It's Caleb Williams got Tom Brady to accidentally slip up and say piss missile on TV. Hey, I'll take that as a very, very, very tiny little victory in a game that otherwise was messy and ugly. We'll go back through some of the messiness and the ugliness once we have time to go through the All-22 film and break it down for you on tomorrow's podcast. So make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, because that's going to be the best way to keep up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if you are one of our everydayers that tunes in 5 days a week to Locked On Bears, thank you so much. I mean, you are who we do this podcast for. Whether it's your first time or your 500th time, making Locked On Bears your first listen, you can upgrade your listening and get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Bears that's compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major podcasting apps. If you go to lockedonbears.supercast.com, you can sign up for the Locked On Everydayers Club, and you get access to a Locked On Discord server, which includes a group chat just for Locked On Bears listeners as well. It's lockedonbears.com. LockedOnBears.supercast.com if you want to join the Everydayer Club. Otherwise, keep tuning in however you are. We're always going to be free and available on all platforms, not going behind a paywall, just offering an ad-free experience for those that want to partake. But we'll still be back tomorrow and every day this week to give you another opportunity to bear down.